This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're here today with Andrew Marshall, CEO of Ecochlor, to discuss recent activity in the ballast water management system market. Andrew, to start us off, can you give us a by-the-number look at Ecochlor today using the metrics of your choice?
Nice to be here, Greg. We're doing okay. And we're doing okay because we took some steps a couple of years ago in anticipation of the market maturing. We think there's probably about a third of the market realistically left to go, maybe a bit more than that, but certainly in our optimum size and vessel type categories, it's about a third to go, plus the new builds, plus various niches that we're looking at. So a couple of years ago, we started work on two new variants of the technology, Eco1 and Eco1 Hybrid. And we launched those late last year. And we've been bowled over by how they've been received. We've got, since the announcement of Eco1 and Eco1 Hybrid, we've had a 40% increase in new customers. So 40% of our orders are to entirely new customers, which is most gratifying, including customers in Asia Pacific, which is also most gratifying. And more than 90% of all our system sales now are either Eco1 or Eco1 Hybrid.
And, you know, we've been covering the ballast water market for nearly 20 years now. But for those watching who might not be as intimately familiar with the Ecochlor solution, can you give a brief overview of the solutions that you offer and a rundown of what you see as the primary advantages from install through lifecycle maintenance?
You know, there is no one system at all of any technology that you can buy that is suitable for all types of vessels, all flow rates, under all operating circumstances. So everybody, to some degree or another, whether they admit it or not, is a niche player to some degree. There are sweet spots for every technology. And most people are familiar with the filtration plus UV approach. Most people are familiar with the filtration plus electrochlorination approach, the electrolysis approach, as it's sometimes referred to. We're a bit unique. We are the only people who offer a chlorine dioxide-based solution. Nobody does it but us. And the reason why nobody does it but us is because we've got the patent on it. So we made it very difficult for anybody to follow us. So unlike, I mean, the word chlorine appears in the process, but it's nothing like the sodium hypochlorite that's developed on board through electrolysis in a lot of the systems that are out there from competitors. Instead, what we do is we have two precursor chemicals on board stored in separate tanks. And when ballasting starts, we take a small amount of that ballast flow up through a bypass line, little 80mm line, through our cabinet, which is about the same size as a IKEA wardrobe, give or take a bit. I use the IKEA wardrobe measure because it's standard all over the world. You know, everybody knows what a Billy bookcase is. So we do that, and then as it's coming into the cabinet, this small supply of water, two chemicals are mixed automatically by two small metering pumps in a chamber that produces the chlorine dioxide gas, and an inductor draws that into that little ballast flow, and then that's reintroduced back into the main line, and that's basically it. I mean, people say, well, how come it's so reliable? It's so reliable because that's it. That's the sum total of the technology. Well, as a core technology, it doesn't need TRO sensors, which is a bit of a bugbear for a lot of people. It uses incredibly small amounts of power. I mean, you're not driving an electrolysis or a UV process, you're driving just two small metering pumps. That's basically it. So you're talking very often in operation, either single digit kilowatt or very low double digit kilowatt type power consumption. Having a simple, reliable system that uses very low power is very good in our view. The advantages of the new systems, Eco1 and Eco1 Hybrid, is that whereas with the original system, the process was 40 micron filtration followed by the Clo2 injection, if you like. The new systems, Eco1 has no filter whatsoever. So it's the same second step, but there's no first step, there's no first stage filtration. And Eco1 Hybrid gives you the option to have a filter and run with or without filter, depending on what you, the vessel owner, personally want to achieve at that point. And I think that's quite important, because what we're finding is that, I think I said to you in our preamble, 90% plus of our sales now are either of Eco1 or Eco1 Hybrid. And of those two variants, they account pretty much half each. The sales of each are about the same. Obviously, Eco1 really suits the very big ships. You know, they don't want, you know, if you've got pumping rates 4, 6, 7,000 cubes an hour, you do not want to have anything getting in the way of that. And so a filtration plant isn't desirable in many cases. And so we see a lot of our systems for those flow capacities being Eco1. Hybrid tends to go for the medium-sized vessels, you know, MRs, AFRAs, things like that, where occasionally there'll be freshwater ballasting, river type operations or estuarial operations where silt levels are higher, and they don't want those silts going into the tank very often.
Let's look at the ballast water management system market specifically. Can you summarize the market today as you see it? What do you see as the biggest challenges? Where do you see the biggest opportunities?
Well, a lot of systems were sold some time ago, but simply weren't used, or were used fleetingly and then turned off. Now that we have to have people starting to look at compliance, even though it's not really being enforced at the moment, but now that we're moving towards a compliance age at some point in the foreseeable future, people are starting to use systems, and they're starting to find out what it means to use those systems on a day-to-day basis. And in some cases, not all, in some cases, that's causing problems. I think, therefore, what's happening is a growing sophistication amongst ship owners as to what actually works from which manufacturers. And there's some very, very good technology from a number of manufacturers out there. There's some really very good stuff out there. They're working out what works and what doesn't, and what is fit for purpose or suitable on certain types of ship and what really isn't. So some mistakes are being corrected. And one of the things that we anticipate, in fact, we're already seeing it because we're already doing it, is what I call retrofits of retrofits. So we're going on to ships, we're taking off systems that were previously installed at some point in the last 5, 7, 9 years, and replacing them with a new system of our own, because the customer either couldn't get on with what was there, or in some cases the supplier of that system is no longer about. You know, they've gone and there's nothing to support, so they've got to put a new compliant system on. But you know, a big chunk of the market is accounted for. We're now looking at the second half of that retrofit market as we run down through towards, well, originally I think everybody thought it would be 2024, but most people I think now think it will extend through to 25 or even 26 in some cases, with the various extensions and pleadings that owners have put to regulatory authorities under the current circumstances, which is fine. And you know, there is increasing demand, as we're seeing, for the right systems. Owners have got to pick winners now, is I think the mentality. Prices have come as low as they're going to get. So now it's a question of, I've got to buy something from somebody that's still going to be there to look after me 3, 4, 8, 10, 12, 15 years down the line. And so they're trying to make those kinds of decisions. So for owners, those are the challenges. For the manufacturers, it's keeping up with growing demands from systems that are actually now in use. And we've got hundreds out there, you know, and now they all need their chemical. We do all the chemical resupplies for our systems globally. So we've had to develop our hub points in Rotterdam, in Singapore, in Houston, in the Middle East, so that we can cover the chemical resupply requirements. We've had to set all that kind of stuff up. And our service techs, we've had to expand our service tech capability. So I think it's an experience thing now that's building in the market. and people are working towards enforcement and compliance. You've got commissioning testing. A lot of people still haven't got their arms around commissioning testing. You know, that they still ask us to do it. We're not allowed to do it. We have to say to them, we're not allowed. You know, you have to organize that. We're not even supposed to be anywhere near the vessel, kind of thing. And there's a lot of head scratching, which puts into focus what we keep telling them about: get your crew training done early, make sure you keep them current, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, you can try as hard as you like to make your technology what I call big green button. You know, push the big green button and it does the job. Push the big red button and you switch it off. We all try very hard to do that with technologies, but you know, there is no substitute for crew training. So I think the market is evolving, and we'll see who's still standing in a couple of years' time.
You know, I asked about challenges previously, but you know, the world is an interesting place today with the geopolitical disruption, inflation, and continued supply chain snarls. How has this collectively impacted Ecochlor?
We've had to become very light on our feet, very, very agile. So we've added, you know, to give us continuity of supply and shorten lead times where possible, we've added more suppliers for all our key components. We brought certain tasks in-house to try and ensure that, you know, where necessary, those sub-assemblies are available. We've become more dynamic in our purchasing, revamped our entire purchasing program, and are much engaged on a much more active basis with our core supply base, you know, helping with them plan what's going to come next. Yes, occasionally we'll get caught out. I mean, I think everybody on the planet's got a problem with computer chips at the moment, for example. And, you know, everybody from car manufacturers to ballast manufacturers struggle. You know, if you've got a touch screen and HMI, you know, they're in short supply. What we've done with that is, in some cases, we've had, in a typical Ecochlor system with all the various, there's the master unit, of course, then there's the sub panels in various other places. Ordinarily, we put an HMI on each of those. What we've had to do is deliver systems which are functionally absolutely correct. So they do everything they're supposed to do, but maybe there's only one HMI. So if you want to pull data off an HMI, you go to that screen. You don't have the luxury of being able to access it from, say, one of the other panels, which you would normally do with our system. But that enables us, because the operability and the efficacy is entirely unaffected, the operation is exactly the same. That enables us to deliver systems with a lower HMI requirement. And I will identify HMI as being our biggest single problem at the moment. That and some raw materials for linings and things like that. Cost-wise, inflation, things like that. At the same time as that's been coming through, we've been looking hard at our supply line and how we can save money within it. The golden rule was that we must not, under any circumstances, compromise on quality or reliability. So, you know, that's got the engineers' head scratching. But we've achieved that. And so far, we have not had to raise our system prices. In fact, we've been able to reduce system prices over the last 2 years through being more efficient in that way. With our chemical resupply, that's a slightly different matter, where it's a little bit of a torrid time. But again, our customers have been brilliant. They've been working with us, giving us opportunities to plan better, helping us out in some cases with the extra cost that might be applicable to certain places where they might want to do things. So again, the best way for all of these things to be dealt with, you know, you put it very well, global geopolitical disruption, is teamwork. You know, work with your customers. You know, they're not your enemy. They're not people you just take money off. They're your partners, and they will be. If you've got a BWMS system on a vessel, it's going to be there for the next 15, 20, 25 years. You know, you've got to have a partnership so that you weather these storms together. Otherwise, everybody loses out. So,
you talked about the Eco 1 and the Eco 1 hybrid, and that kind of leads perfect into the next question of how is Ecochlor investing in R&D, its products, its services today?
well, yes, as you correctly say, Eco 1 and Eco 1 hybrid was a big R&D effort. We actually, from start to finish, got the IMO type approval on that and the USCG approval for it within 2 years, which is pretty much unheard of. But again, working with people and taking a professional approach and building on our experience enabled us to do that quickly and efficiently. So that was the big internal R&D effort, but that's a product that we launched last year. In terms of R&D on the core products, what we're doing at the moment is examining costs, examining designs to ensure that they're the most efficient. Not so much research, more product development. We do a failure analysis where we don't get very many failures at all, but where we do get failures, we analyze them, try and work out if it's a one-off or something that we need to be aware of, and adjust things accordingly. And that's a continuous process that never stops. Outside of that, though, Ecochlor has openly been stating for some time now that we will navigate our way from being simply a ballast water management systems provider to a more green marine tech platform type company, where we're able to offer ship owners really quite exciting green tech technologies that we've looked at, we think are competent, and we can help bring to the market. And I phrase it in that way because being a BWMS provider of a unique technology gives us a unique perspective. We didn't wander into any ship owner and say, well, this system is the same as Fred's over there, but we're 10 grand cheaper, or our subtle difference is we paint our cabinets blue instead of green, or whatever it is. I mean, we have a completely differentiated technology, which you might think is a great strength, but it's also, that great strength is also a great weakness in its own way, because you have to convince people that the fact that you've decided to paddle your own canoe is a good idea that they need to get on board with. Now, fortunately, we've been able to do that, and in doing so, deliver success to hundreds and hundreds of vessels worldwide. So that credibility means that when we go back in and see those customers and we say, hey, have you thought about hull lubrication, hull air lubrication? Have you thought about carbon capture? Have you thought about vapor recovery? Have you thought about, any number of other things? We get a good audience, we get to talk about, we get enough ear time to help people to understand some of the new technologies that we've got coming. So we've put some of our research into working out what's going to be needed next by the industry, and clearly fuel consumption, managing carbon, reducing emissions of various types, greater efficiencies, so on and so forth. These are all technology bases, technology families that we've been looking into, and we've been selecting niche manufacturers to work with, and using our expertise, help bring them to the market. And when you visit me at SMM, Greg, I'll introduce you to some of those things, because SMM is the launch of some of those things for us.